What's up, everybody? Mutchler here, your favorite Bellingham realtor. Okay, I know I'm probably not your favorite, but I should be. I should be your favorite because why wouldn't I be? I'm beautiful. Look at this face. Anyways, I wanted to talk to you guys about the 2022 real estate market, what's going to be happening, more specifically here in Bellingham, Washington, than on a national level. Although I will be talking about some national stuff, but for the most part, I'm going to be talking about just what's going to happen here in Whatcom County or Bellingham as a whole, because that's where I live and this is the area and market I know the absolute best, whereas I can maybe speak a little bit to the national side, but not really anywhere else. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So one of the first things I think is going to happen is I think interest rates are going to go up. And the reason I think this is because the Federal Reserve has announced that they're going to raise interest rates probably 3 or 4 times. So that's one thing you can expect happen in 2022, and that really does have a massive effect on your buying power as a buyer or someone refinancing your mortgage. People think like, oh, it's just gone up by like 0.5%, or it went from 3% to 3.5%, or 3.5% to 4%. People don't realize that's hundreds of thousands of dollars of buying power that you no longer have when buying a house. So it can have a massive effect on how much you can afford, and it can increase your monthly payment quite significantly for such a small amount. So you can end up buying the same house for the same price, but your mortgage will be significantly more. So if you're planning on waiting or think you can save up more money for a down payment, and I get it, sometimes you have to just save more money for a down payment. I totally get that, totally respect that. Sometimes you're just not capable of buying a house right now, but if you're trying to time the market, you're probably going to lose. And interest rates could go down, but I don't think they will because the Federal Reserve keeps announcing that they're going to keep going up. Now, historically, they're still really low. Like, interest rates are still incredibly low. The historic average is like 9%. We're still hovering around 3.25. I think it's like 3.357 something right now. But the more they go up, the less house you can afford and the more expensive your monthly housing payments are going to be. So that's just something to keep in mind if you plan on waiting too long. Now, you're probably thinking that if interest rates keep going up, that's going to make houses more affordable. There's going to be less buyers, and then there'll be less buyer demand, in which case house prices are probably going to drop. Yes, technically in a classic supply and demand situation where, the buyer's demand drops, then the supply increases, you're going to have prices drop. I don't think that's going to happen though, because there's literally no supply. The amount of houses that are for sale are so few and far between. It baffles my mind. When I first got into real estate, selling real estate 6 years ago, there was probably about 1,000 houses for sale at any given time in the Whatcom County area. So if you're in the Bellingham area, about 1,000 houses for sale any given time. Right now, as of recording this video, there's 152 houses. Okay, that's significantly less houses for sale, and that's all price ranges. That includes your mobile home park units that are going for like $50,000 to $200,000, which is insane. That are cash only, by the way, to your multi-million-dollar houses and everything in between. So this is the broad spectrum of what's available, and this is in Whatcom County. This is in Bellingham, Ferndale. There's like 10 houses for sale in Ferndale right now. This is in the entire county. So there's really not a lot of options out there, despite buyer demand potentially going lower. Now, granted, it is January. There's not going to be as many houses for sale in January. And as we move into February and March and April, we're going to be seeing a lot more houses for sale. But I don't think that's going to cause prices to drop. Best case scenario, prices level off. They stop going up so high. They stop going up by 20 or 30% every single year, in which they have been. They're probably going to just level off and probably go up just a little bit and not just skyrocket anymore. That's kind of what I predict is going to happen with housing prices. No, I don't think they're going to drop. So if you're thinking that they are, you're tough out of luck. In fact, here's an example where I just sold a house recently where the lady that sold the house purchased it in 2008, 2 weeks before the market crashed, I believe for about $280,000. The market crashed 2 weeks later after she got the keys to the new house, and we just sold it for almost $600,000. Okay, so she's almost doubled her money in the last 14 years, or 13 years, because it's about a year ago. She timed the market poorly, one would say, but she held on there long term, and prices still increase. In fact, Warren Buffett talks about how if you just buy and hold and just stay in the market long term and just think long term, you're always going to make a profitable return. In fact, the market has never produced a negative return if you've stayed in it for more than 20 years. Now, of course, you could buy a really bad stock or like a really bad house in like a really, really bad area that's dilapidated and falls apart, burns down. Sure, that's probably not the best idea. But if you're buying just a normal house, it should always go up in price. I mean, think about when your grandpa bought a house. He bought a house probably for $20,000, $50,000, okay? Granted, that was probably 50 years ago, but still, long-term prices always go up. So if you think they're going to go down, that's not necessarily true. What goes up doesn't always have to come down. So we have rising interest rates. We have prices are still going to go up. What about you sellers? Well, sellers, you've had a really good couple of years, getting multiple offers on your house, probably selling for $50,000 to $100,000 over. It's been the norm, getting 20 offers on your house. That's been a pretty common thing the last 2 years. I don't think that's going to be happening anymore. With rising interest rates and lowered buyer demand, I still think you're going to be selling your house for a lot of money. I don't think your housing prices are going to drop, but I don't think you're going to be getting 10, 20, or even 5 offers on your house. You might get 1 or 2 or 3, but you're probably going to be selling your house closer to what you're asking and not 50 or 20 or 100,000 over asking. So that's kind of what I think is going to happen for sellers. And again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. These are just my predictions based off of patterns that I'm seeing that make sense. Now, another thing people want to talk about is this wave of foreclosures. I don't know if you've probably heard of it. I hear about it all the time, and that's it. We're just going to get this massive wave of foreclosures coming on the market, and that's going to drop prices because there's going to be a ton of houses for sale. I don't think that's true. And the reason people think that's true is because we had something called a mortgage forbearance. So when COVID first happened, the federal government came and said, we're going to let everyone who needs to pause their mortgages and they don't have to make payments until they do. Now, this puts people in a state of foreclosure or pre-foreclosure, if you will. I'm probably messing up the terminology because I don't have any notes in front of me. But what this tells the bank is that, hey, they're not making their payments, so we might need to put them in foreclosure. Now, this is part of the mortgage forbearance program where people didn't have to make payments because of COVID, and because everyone thought once these payments, the payment pause, if you will, is over, they thought people wouldn't be able to keep making payments because they lost their jobs, and we would just get flooded. They would go into foreclosure. We would just get flooded with houses for sale. That happened last summer, and we haven't seen that. If we're going to see any foreclosures, we would have seen them by now. What most people did is they just started resuming payments again. And really, it was great for them. They didn't have to make payments for a year and a half, 2 years, which is great. You can save that money, do whatever you want with it. But we're not seeing a wave of foreclosures, and we're probably not going to. Now you're probably thinking, okay, Tommy, but what about the jobs? We have not a ton of great paying jobs here in Bellingham, Washington. People are only making between, what about all the blue collar jobs where people are only, making $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year? They can't buy these $700,000 houses, these $500,000 houses, these $1 million houses. And you're right, they can't. But we do have all these people working remotely. So we have a lot of people from California, and I know everyone's like, oh my God, California, stay home, go home. Okay, fine. But the reality is people from California, Nevada, Texas, Seattle are moving here because prices are cheaper, and we live in a really cool area. Like, it's really, really nice here all the time. I know right now it sucks. It's raining and it's disgusting outside, but Bellingham in general is a really nice, desirable area. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you can tell, but my phone is like messaging like crazy. I just need to turn that off. I am so sorry. But we live in such a desirable area that you have all these remote people working here who want to work here and live here, who can work remotely and have these 6-figure jobs. Now, they're probably going to keep driving prices up forever, indefinitely, and that's just going to be the way it is. Now, for all the blue-collar folk who are not making 6 figures, I think you will make 6 figures eventually. I think the median income keeps going up every single year, and it might take 10 or 20 more years, but with inflation, with how increasing inflation is, with the prices of everything going up, I think you will get into those higher price brackets, but it might take some time. And yes, houses will probably become more expensive later down the road. However, you're probably going to have to buy houses closer to Everson or Maple Falls or Sumas, because buying in Bellingham or Ferndale, unless you have a higher paying job, is going to be much more difficult, or unless you have a house already plan on selling it, take that equity to go buy something bigger, that is also another option. But if you don't own a house and you don't make a ton of money, you're probably going to have to buy somewhere more remote, like Sumas or Maple Falls or Everson or something like that. And I don't like that. That's just the way it is. It's just what's happening. It's just the way the market is. And we live in such a unique area. Here's another thing. Not only are we crazy desirable right here in Whatcom County, but we don't have room to grow, right? Like, we have room to grow, but like, where are we going to build new houses or communities? You have Canada to the north. You have the ocean to the west. You have the mountains. You have Mount Baker to the east, and then you have more mountains, or that valley, that Lake Sammamish area, the south. Like, you don't have a lot of area to grow. We have this kind of unique little special pocket right here called Whatcom County that can't really go anywhere. And we just have people moving here like crazy, and it's expanding, and it's causing prices to go up. And it's such a high desirable area. It's like a perfect storm. And I really think because we're so desirable and everyone wants to live here, that we can really weather any type of crazy market crash or anything like that. And even like in 2008, when the market crashed in 2008, we were hardly affected. Like, prices did go down a little bit, but they went right back up. And the price amount that they did drop was so low that it didn't really matter, right? So long story short, I think prices are going to level off or slow down. I don't think they're going to be skyrocketing 20, 30%. That's just not sustainable. That can't keep happening forever. But I do think they're going to slow down, and I really hope they slow down this year. I do think interest rates are going to go up. So if you are planning on buying, things are probably going to get more expensive. If you plan on selling, you know what? You're still going to sell your house for a lot of money, and you're still going to probably have to buy a new house if you still live here for a lot of money. So you're really just trading up. So, it's going to cost probably relatively the same, but don't expect to get 10 or 20 offers on your house selling for $100,000 over asking. You're probably going to sell a lot closer to asking price, whatever that asking price may be. And of course, you can ask me, or you can ask your realtor, you can ask whoever you want on what you think your house is worth. Just know the market is changing relatively quickly, and it's changing fast, and prices are going up fast. So just because the house was $500,000 yesterday doesn't mean it's not going to be $600,000 tomorrow. Just the way it is. Anyway, guys, my name is Mutchler. I hope you found this video informative and helpful on what my predictions are for the housing market here in 2022. If you ever need an awesome realtor, I'm always happy to help. In the meantime, you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.